The following podcast is inspired by the book, How to Live a Great Life. These podcasts are designed to give you some perspectives that will help improve the quality of your life. Hi, this is Bill Raybo. In this podcast, I will share with you the part of my personal history that led me on a journey of self-discovery. I will reveal some of the positive changes I experienced as a result of my learning. I will also share a small insight into my book, How to Live a Great Life. In midlife, I left the corporate world and started a business. It began with one computer software store in Markham, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto. Over the next 7 years, this company grew into a 20-store franchise chain operating in 4 provinces across Canada. I had 8 people working with me in the head office and over 100 full and part-time people working in the stores. I felt like a king in my little kingdom. Then in the 8th year, software sales in software stores across North America fell by 40%. My business went bankrupt. I felt worthless. Then a year later, my wife of 12 years, who I loved very much, left with our 2 children. I reached an even deeper low. But this is not a story of sadness or regret, but of redemption and personal fulfillment. For this was the beginning of an extraordinary personal journey. I began by taking an intensive weekend relationship training program. About a year later, I took another intensive weekend training program, the Landmark Forum. I joined a men's group. These were about 120 men in Toronto that met weekly in groups of about 12 men. All of the men were graduates of the relationship training program. It was in this group that I had my first big breakthrough. Some men who cared about me told me that my way of coping in the world was to be right, act superior, and make other people wrong. This was very painful to hear, as I did not see myself that way. However, this was a very important step in my personal development. I have also learned that every human being has coping behaviors. My book describes many different ways that people cope. In later podcasts, I will share some stories of people using these behaviors while being totally unaware that they are doing so. At this point in the journey, there were noticeable changes in my behavior. For example, before, when I was in conversation, I was listening for the opportunity to speak. Now I was listening to hear the other person's point of view. I would ask questions to better understand them. I was reading many books, authors like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, and Neil Donald Walsh, and they were having an impact on me. I read about 20 books from these types of authors. The Conversations with God trilogy by Walsh had the most impact on me. It was in his books that I gained a great insight into the use of the law of attraction. I can use this way of thinking to bring wonderful events into my life. After about 7 years of learning, I chose to take one more step that changed everything. Over the following 2 years, I meditated on the 365 exercises at the back of a book called A Course in Miracles. This caused a significant positive change in my experience of life. At the beginning of my journey, I was a normal human being. I used my defense mechanisms freely. If someone criticized me, I felt pain and would respond aggressively. Problems would raise my stress levels considerably. For the last 15 years, all of that has changed. I rarely use defense mechanisms. I no longer feel pain when someone criticizes me. In fact, I am aware of the other person's pain that caused the attack. Events that would have stressed me at 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 now stress me at a 2 out of 10. Recently, there was an event that did set me back. In the past, this event would have caused me trauma for months. I was able to recover in just days. A close friend of mine called to say that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. For 2 days, I experienced severe trauma, but then the negative energy dissipated. I began searching for ways of helping my friend cope with this situation. We talked several times over the next few months, but in the end, he lost the battle with cancer after about 4 months. I was saddened at his loss, but relieved that he was free of the considerable pain he had been enduring. This experience would have devastated me before, but I was able to regain my balance relatively quickly because of all that I have learned. I want to share with you what I have learned. My book, How to Live a Great Life, is divided into 2 major sections. The first 2/3 of the book involve looking at life differently and exposing the issues that prevent most people from enjoying life. The last third of the book provides training in 2 liberating concepts. Once these skills are mastered, stressful events or challenges have much less negative impact. Joyful living becomes the norm. These podcasts will reveal much of the information in the first 2/3 of the book. These podcasts are an introduction to the soon-to-be-published book, How to Live a Great Life. The promise of the book is to give you information and tools that will help you to reduce stress and increase joy in your life. To get updates on the launch date for the book, as well as information on future podcasts, please click the link Great Life in the show notes of this episode. Enter your email and you will be kept up to date. If you are listening using the Apple Podcast app, the show notes can be found by pressing on Detail. Then scroll down the show notes to find the Great Life link. This is Bill Rabo reminding you that your thoughts create your reality. So think positive thoughts.